Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. It's the 14th episode of HeleCloud Talks Cloud. And we have two guests today, Karen and Mike. Karen, you want to say something about yourself? Can you hear us?
Karen appears to be frozen.
Hi
Yes.
everyone. I'm Karen. I'm from the Amazon Webs. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can hear you
All
now.
right. All right. Hi everyone. I'm Karen, and nice to be here in HeleCloud Talks. I'm from AWS, and I am from the FSI EMEA organization from Amazon Web Services. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Karen. Mike, if you want to present
Sure.
yourself.
Sure. My name is Mike, based out of Singapore, work for Facebook across operations infrastructure and information security.
Awesome. Thank you. And Walter's laptop died. So I'm going to be driving the show today because he can't see the board with the topics. And I'm just going to completely make up topics that we can discuss and take full advantage of the situation. So first, something funny that no one can really believe. FTP is 50 years old.
That made me feel really old when I read that.
I don't know. It made me feel really young when I read that because I was like, really? But what I really liked about this is that the first comment under the Reddit post was now hiring FTP sysadmins with 60 plus years of FTP experience.
I think that one of the things that's quite interesting is that FTP is now on its way out. I think that plain FTP, I haven't seen it for a while, and I hope to not see it anymore. But one of the things that is interesting is how the internet is still functioning on pretty archaic concepts that were invented because we had all kinds of limitations to the connection speeds and the way connections work. So if you look at how the global DNS architecture works, it's quite insane that we're still using the same methods that were designed in like the early 90s or maybe earlier, but that were put in place in the internet in the early 90s with the root DNS servers and a whole bunch of silly stuff that engineers have to go through because DNS still functions in the same way as it did all the way back when there was a reason for it to function that way. Did I freeze?
Sorry. Yeah, I'm muted myself. I was saying Mike was saying the same thing yesterday. How FTP should have died long ago.
It should have died 30 years ago. I recognise everything. It worked at the time. There's probably all the design decisions made at the time for its functionality. I still think that when web accounts, hosting accounts, they still provide FTP access as a fallback to SSH. I think, or certainly I'd seen them in the past. Yeah, it just needs to go away. It's really interesting. I'd love to read a little bit of history about it, but yeah, 50 years old.
Yeah. And the founder of Adobe and the developer of PDF died. So that's another interesting piece of history.
I think PDF is one of those interesting file formats that made it to be so ubiquitous that even my 76-year-old mother knows what PDF is and how to read one. And I think if you leave that kind of legacy in the world, then that's really something to be quite proud of.
Yep, indeed. And now for our more cloud-related topic, something that Karen suggested yesterday. The cloud's $1 trillion prize is up for grabs. It's an article in McKinsey, which is talking about how we're barely scratching the surface of getting the full benefit from using the cloud, and it's pointing out which industries are benefiting the most from using cloud services, and it has some interesting projections on how this is going to go in the next 10 years.
Yeah, it's like saying you need to rejuvenate before you innovate. I don't know what rejuvenate mean. It's like you need to resuscitate someone to ingest life and oxygen. But I think, you know, as you take as you take at the drawing of the cloud, it's like really air, a breath of fresh air. I think is what everybody's looking at it now. Hopefully, but
I think the point of rejuvenate is just do not put your data center abominations straight on the cloud. And re-architect and rewrite them so that they're at least cloud ready, if not cloud native. Although the article is saying, I think cloud native was the idea. Because we've seen this, and you continue to see this very often. Hi again, Walter. How we have people putting their applications, super old school applications, on the cloud, transitioning them from VMs in the data center to instances on AWS, and a few years down the line of trying to make them work into auto scaling groups and with all of the benefits of the cloud, they're like, I don't know. I'm not feeling this cloud stuff. I think it's too expensive. I think our data center is still cheaper than what we're getting in AWS. Duh, you're not using it right.
Yes, but then at the same time, you get evolution over evolution. Sorry, you get evolution over evolution, where where was this? Just recently, talking about someone who was trying to convert a mainframe application to run in the cloud. Like, hold on, you skipped like a few generations of evolution, and then if you're going to try and do that, and you're not in the position for whatever reason it is to go back to the drawing board and say, hey, let's, instead of mash this square peg through a round hole. Instead, you're going to try and actually do that. You're probably going to have a really hard time. And then the next evolution shows up, and somebody's like, "Let's put our serverless, let's put our mainframe application into a serverless environment."
What could go wrong? They were meant to be.
And that's why we can now run containers in serverless. Yay!
I think what could go wrong is how people perceive. Right. There's this big attachment. When you have this, sentimental value of your data centers, you really have, I don't know who speaks COBOL these days, but no offense. It's something that it's like probably related to FTP and, celebrating Adobe. But at the end of the day, I think.
I think that's why you say it's partly that, and partly it's perceived business reasons to do such things. So people say, oh no, that would be too expensive, or we couldn't afford to do that. And by that kind of thinking, very often these are perceived limitations and not necessarily actual limitations. You could do a full redesign. It's just that it would be a hell of a lot more expensive than just porting an old application into a new environment. But then at the same time, going with the times provides you the opportunity that modern environments grant you. At the same time, the second thing I wanted to say is that I was talking to a customer this week, and what we realized is that within that team, they were really quite happy with what we're doing with them, and we did a really good migration. But there's a lot larger rest of the company that are not necessarily on the same train or on the same journey with them. And this is a normal situation in an enterprise environment, that if you're not talking high up enough in the chain, you're making small changes somewhere in down the line, and that's not actually going to be enough to get the rest of the organization to change as well, and the larger things that are sitting without the team that you're working with. And that's, I think, an organizational challenge in enterprise organizations that I've seen more than a few times.
Well, I think one of the things I really enjoy about cloud services is it's a low barrier to entry for startups. I think one of the things that frustrates me quite a lot, and I'm not going to swear, is whatever your application, whatever product you're trying to get out, you have access to a globally connected customer base. You just don't have customers yet, right? But I see so many almost, it's come too narrow in thinking in terms of the application. Maybe there's a bunch of open source stuff like, I don't know, PHP, which is it is an HTML, fundamentally an HTML templating program that has been used and squeezed and coerced to produce mammoth things. Fundamentally wasn't really designed for that. Different types of databases and how we move forward with databases. And so design decisions, I think now in those early stages, actually when you architect, are really, really crucial, because you have to, out of the gate, think at scale. I'm not talking Facebook scale necessarily, but you have to put, it's almost like, from a business standpoint, I am going to have 12 million customers in 1 year. Okay, outlandish thoughts and if people can do that, absolutely phenomenal. But you have to, I think you really have to approach it from that standpoint, is because I have to think about how I provide this service to all these people that are globally connected in whatever form they're connected, but they are connected in some way. And if you're thinking, oh, well, I've got to rent some space in a data center and I'll have one server and yada, yada, yada. I mean, it's just, forget it. I don't even know why you're thinking that way. There's information security side of it. You're handing off aspects to that. There's depending on what platform, whereas Google Cloud, Amazon, Microsoft, Azure, whatever. There are obviously different design decisions across that, depending on the capabilities of those services. But fundamentally, it's that low cost barrier. I can spin up instance, deploy my application, and it is out there. And I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, and we're just talking to a customer last week, I think it was. They said, yeah, we used to take, literally that's what they said, we used to take 6 months plus to deploy an application, and now we're on AWS in this case, but the costs that we're seeing are higher than what we were expecting, and this is not because our estimations were wrong in terms of what running our infrastructure would be. It's because we all of a sudden saw much more adoption than we thought we would see. So now we're spending more, but not because we're doing things wrong, but because we're doing things right. All of a sudden, this business is moving faster because nobody has to put in a ticket for a VM, then wait 6 months, and then go back to what was I thinking 6 months ago? Oh wait, that's not relevant anymore. So this kind of thing is really quite interesting. How you remove basically a roadblock from the speed of innovation.
Yeah, and it is that. It is speed of innovation and speed, the ability to make really, really fast changes. There's a book, Paul Graham, Hackers and Painters. I don't know if anybody's read it. It's really, really, he wrote it, I don't know, maybe 10 years or so ago now, but it's still fairly relevant. And one of the things he talks about is the ability to make quick changes. there's a bug. It's being flagged. It's critical. Okay, bang. I'm not trying to oversimplify, but the thing is, it's features can be pushed out quickly, and obviously through continuous integration, continuous testing. But it's quick to change. There's not this sort of waterfall cycle of going through all these hoops.
But I think, you know, Waterfall is such a Waterfall approach is such an institution for a lot of transformation, right? But at the end of the day, I mean, I have done Waterfall a lot of times. I will not say who consulting firm have taught me how to do it, but no, I will not call it. I might just curse, and Lina have told us yesterday to watch it. But what I'm trying to say is, I think it's that velocity. Once you've really found that gold mine in the cloud, that velocity of innovation and how much pace you can be, right? So some of our customers have different kinds of, in AWS, have different kinds of strategy. But the main thing there right now is the name of the game is the more focused you are to the individual outside, right, which is your customer. So I think most of the transformation right now before is centered institutionally, whether we like it or not. That's how most, especially for FSIs, right? The me. And now, okay, let's talk about the person who receives the product. I think it's what the situation we are all in right now, the pandemic economy, and you know, the road back. I don't know what new normal means. I don't even know what new normal means, to be honest. But at the end of the day, I think the shifting of the transformation is not institutional now. It's more on the customer. And the only way to really understand what that personalized need is you need the capability where your velocity is faster than how the market moves, or it moves with the market volatility. So I think that's the trillion price that McKinsey was saying in this article. Some of it I like, some of it I don't, because I think some of it are quite aggressive. But at the end of the day, I like to think about when you do digital transformation also in the cloud, you have to take a look at your organization, because you have two customers, right? The people within who runs it, and then the people outside. So
I have to say, I'm not the biggest fan of the velocity. If anyone knows me, I'm the most impatient person, and I want everything to happen really quickly. But at the same time, I feel as if in the last few years, everyone is rushing. And they're rushing a lot. Is it because of the pace that we're getting to know now with the cloud, and like, oh, things can happen quickly? I want them to happen even quicker. So we're burning people down and trying to squeeze everyone so that we get results yesterday.
I think that pressure, though, has always been there.
No, I'm pretty sure it has increased in the past 10 years.
I wonder about that, because it's an interesting thought. I think that's.
I think it's like drinking Red Bull and Starbucks all black at the same time. I think that's how, because that's what we drink before we go to the office. If you guys have gone to the streets of New York early morning, you've seen people having Red Bull, and at the same time, I don't know if we have this size of espresso in Europe, but
Americano.
I think that's what Lina was saying, right? Yes, an Americano. There you go. Because when you go to Italy, you ask for an Americano, they would say, no, we only have Italiano. So sorry.
Yeah. It's like asking for a Walter at a well-respected steakhouse.
Yeah, so I think, Lina, what you're saying there, and you know, I agree with Walter. It has been there. It's that mindset, right? Before you even achieve something, we need this yesterday. I mean, our bosses would tell us that, you know, Karen, you need to get this yesterday. I said, we're just talking about it today. So I think that has been the mindset since, right? The word slowing down when you go to the corporate side of things. I don't know. What do you think, Mike? How's it in Facebook? You slow down?
No.
No, how is it in your work experience, regardless of Facebook?
Yeah. No, it's. I think there's sort of wherever you are, there's a cultural aspect of it in that work culture, and then there's that individual person that they bring to that culture. That's part of who they are, and I think for me, just because of the circles I keep, I just tend to be around people that are really, really, they love what they do. And that's a driver, right? It's not,
Yes.
this isn't, I've been in the tech industry in one form or other for over 20 years, and that's scary, but I love it. And then obviously there's parts of it that are kind of dull, report writing, things like that. But on the whole, for me, it's about problem solving. There's like there's all these wonderful little problems and big problems and things, and that's the driving force. And so when you bring that to an environment that embraces that in whatever form and encourages it, and you are given that natural runway to go ahead and go, wow, I can really go really hard, really fast here, and I'm enjoying this. Then you have to be careful because you can burn out, and it's hard. And we've had people that over the years where they've recognized, thankfully, just because of things that have been put in place to help them, have recognized, you know what, I'm on that cusp, or I've hit that point and I need to take a break. And that's good that there's that recognition. And I think with COVID-19, I think one of the fantastic things that has come out of all of this is this much larger awareness and openness of people's ability to talk openly about mental health, and it is a real thing. We just didn't really want to acknowledge it. We're always talking about physical health, right? And over the years, and the body is this. It's built of many different systems, and it's holistic in that respect, and they all combine and work together. And when they're in balance, everything's great. But as we've seen with the global pandemic, it's really highlighted this, and I think that's wonderful. And bringing that back to the sort of the speed, the velocity that we were talking about earlier, I think that's made people take stock, and that's been really, really important and really positive. And it's certainly when it comes. For people, if anybody's watching this, it's one of those things I think to ask when you're interviewing for another job during the pandemic. How did you, fundamentally, what were your priorities? Because that will really, really define whether that company cares about its people or just cares about the bottom line.
Yeah.
By the way, the reason, sorry, Walter, the reason I brought this about the velocity is I watched this video a few years ago about how the generation that's growing up now has grown up with the internet and is used to measuring time in seconds, so they're very impatient. And I'm just thinking what it's going to be like for people, for our kids at the moment, when they grow up and they are used to this, like 1,000 new features every day. What does this do to the way you see the world?
I mean, I agree with Lina on that. I mean, if you give a 10-year-old or a 9-year-old, even a teenager today, right? If you give them, this big black telephone that has dial-in, they don't know how to use it at the end of the day. But they don't know that this capability that has been there is enabling the mobile phones right now. The intelligence in that black machine or mechanism. So I think the most important thing here is in any change or transformation, be it digital or operation excellence, what I think the bottom line here is really the big enabler there is really the culture and the mindset, right? And part of it is the organization. Yeah.
And it's funny how nowhere in that story technology is actually a thing, right? It's
Yes.
we started talking about cloud and not cloud, but really it doesn't
Yes.
matter.
Yes.
It's all about culture and mindset. And I think that Mike's comment is also really important. That the best performing organizations are the organizations that take care of its people and that have a supportive environment where you can both run fast if you want to, but you also have someone slowing you down if you go too fast. I've had more than a few times in the last decade where I've had to tell someone, you're going home now and you're not coming back for another week because you need to take it easy, because otherwise you'll spin out of control. And especially when talking to younger engineers, they don't necessarily always recognize it. Whereas if you've seen it a few times, you can see it coming from a mile away that people are running too fast. And if you don't force them to hit the brakes, that will lead to much more damage later on.
I think it's all about my perspective is all about delayed gratification, because it's something that defines how successful you're going to be, and it's especially funny in this sense where if you take the time to rejuvenate, to make your applications cloud ready, then you really benefit. But at the same time, you're like, quickly, I want to reap all the fruit now. I want to get all the benefits now, and this is the balance that if an organization gets right, then they're real winners.
Yeah, that's what we say in AWS. We always work backwards. We tell our customers, let's relax, sit down. Do you really want to achieve this at the end of the day? And if you want it, how do you think you yourself would take this to point A to point B? Because at the end of the day, right, we all have the answers. This $1 trillion question is all in the hands of the people who in the organization. But at the end of the day, as I don't know if you've seen this cartoon, a leader is saying, who wants to change? So everybody really raises their hands and clapping, and then all of a sudden, okay, good. Who wants to lead the change? No one.
And
It's like
no one wants to
cricket.
take the blame when it doesn't work in the end.
Probably, I think, and I think the one word in this article in McKinsey that really does something good is, once you rejuvenate, you need to be a pioneer. A pioneer does not come with speed. It comes over time and learning, right? Pioneer are visionaries. So at the end of the day, you need to build. And when you build, it's not overnight. I mean, if we're talking to technology guys there here and in engineers, right? I mean, my dad is an engineer. When my dad asked me to do a math problem, I said, what's the answer? My dad said, draft the formula, figure it out. And I said, I want the answer now. And my dad said, no, you need to have a draw the equation. And I said, I don't like to draw the equation. And then they said, and then he told me, draft mathematics, you'll never learn it. So that's what he told me, and it really resonated, because at the end of the day, to solve problems, cloud is really a problem solver. So at the end of the day, if people don't do problem solving effectively and finding root causes, you're just putting in the band-aid, and then it's there. You can have a third, fourth vaccine in the way and still don't get a cure at the end of the day, I suppose. That's how I see it.
No, yeah, really good points. I really like the conversation today. It's not necessarily that much about the news, but I think it's a really nice conversation. We have officially 1 minute left, so I really want to just mention the last article that's on our list, because I think it's kind of insane, but also highlights a big problem. So there's a whole riot in the Linux kernel community because a bunch of researchers intentionally added vulnerabilities to the Linux kernel in order to do some of their research. And the story is a bit more nuanced than that, because if you dive deep into it, they have reasons for it, and there's safeguards, etc. But the reality is that the whole kernel community lost their because they this is it's a downside of That's a downside of open source, where in theory everyone can contribute, and if you're not careful and look carefully at those contributions, a person that wants to and is careful enough about it can sneak in a vulnerability and do so intentionally, and with that hurt the entire Linux community, while maybe their original intentions are okay, and the reality is that it hurts everyone down the line. So it's quite an interesting.
So should security and compliance led? Yeah, there have to be like some safeguards checking the code.
Yes, but have you seen those SSL vulnerabilities in like 20-year-old libraries?
No.
There's a huge code base as well.
Yeah,
but it's happened before. I can't think of the reference at the moment, but it's not the first time. The intention previously was different, but again, it was a vulnerability that was written into. It's going to bug me now. I'm going to look it up, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this one is super high vis, right? So because it's the Linux kernel, it gets a lot of people upset. But
yeah, this was Linux kernel vulnerability previously as well. I'll dig it up and send it over to you. But yeah.
But this can happen on a larger, on a much smaller scale in places where it won't get noticed, and it's a real thing to keep in mind to be able to deal with that in open source projects, to make sure that you don't get this kind of stuff. A friend of mine, she works for a company, and it's a slightly different story, but it's the similar delayed security problem. A friend of mine, she works for a company, and someone snuck in somewhere. They traced it back to July last year, to on January 1st, erase all the production databases, including all the backups. And I won't go into how much problems there are when you have the ability for someone to do that, but the similarities with someone intentionally putting something in place that is with premedicated thought to be used later is quite dangerous.
Yeah, it's probably what Lina have mentioned here, right? Like proactive compliance and risk management at the end of the day, because it's open source, right? And sometimes you can really park there something that you want to do in the future, and then you want to access it at the end of the day. And I think that's part of where we are right now, how our governance now runs these open source platforms that we have, and how we're able to manage it. Because at the end of the day, once these controls are breached, the payback of the company or the people who are managing it is quite big.
I think that actually it's as a company you have to. It's almost guaranteed that this is going to happen, and what you need is processes in place that know how to deal with security issues when they arise. I think that being able to respond fast and correct and in the right way is probably more important for companies than trying to somehow influence this kind of thing not happening.
But then no one follows processes or game days.
Yeah, well, that's a different story. We are over time. So at the end of this call, we always allow for both the guests to say something either about their work or about... basically, it's a free 1 minute of saying whatever you want, as long as
promote whatever. Yeah.
Karen, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I mean, for me is HeleCloud is one of our partners in AWS, and I'm happy that we'll be working with you closely on certain, go-to-market, which I run as part of our business development in FSI. And one of it really, I just would like to point out on AWS Cloud really is how we are how we are really customer obsessed, right? A lot of people have seen, this is crazy, Amazon's customer obsessions. So when I joined the company, I saw it. It's really the oil that churns the whole machine together. And for us, is not only our customers and partners like yourselves that are really helping us to accelerate cloud, right? I came from the banking industry. I mean, I call it an antiquated institution with a lot of attachment to its monolithic infrastructure. But at the end of the day, I think skepticism in the cloud is all about fear to really transform and fully be, out there. But I think where we are is we want to be pioneers and builders at the end of the day. So in AWS, that's what we do day in and day out. So if anyone out there who has questions about the cloud, how we're going to start, where we're going to start, you have my face, unfortunately, here for AWS. But I'm happy to say that, we have also Lina and Walter in HeleCloud who would help us to do that. So with that, I'm truly grateful for this platform. Thanks, Lina, Walter, and HeleCloud for this.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Karen.
Karen. This means a lot. Mike.
Thanks, Karen. Yeah, so I actually can't talk about anything to do with my work, obviously, and you all know what Facebook does. So, but thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. It's a long time since I've done anything like this, and it's been fun. So yeah, it's good. Thank you.
It's been really good to have your thoughts, Mike.
Yeah, no worries.
I need to find an excuse to come to Singapore so we can catch up for a beer.
You do. If you can get through the barriers with the barrier controls.
Well, maybe not this year, but
yeah,
soon.
Hopefully at some point for sure. It's been a while.
When the apocalypse is over, definitely. All right. Thanks everyone for sticking with us. It was a great Friday morning conversation, and have a nice rest of the day and a nice weekend.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.